UNUS English School. For quality and affordable education, look no further. UNUS English School has what you've been looking for. UNUS English School is a leading institution in the Gambia with nursery, lower basic, upper basic and senior secondary education with magnificent teaching and learning facilities. UNUS English School has highly qualified and experienced teaching staff preparing students for university and beyond. UNUS English School is an institution with distinct academic excellence, and the school operates not only in the usual 5 days a week but 6 days a week, Mondays to Saturdays, breaking a remarkable record on credit hour coverage for all our students. Contact UNUS English School today to register your children on 7781443 or 7070091 or still on 9249426. Better still, you can email unusenglish@yahoo.com. At UNUS English School, excellence is a priority without compromise.
The Red Cross Emblem. The unauthorized use of the Red Cross emblem in the Gambia is illegal and punishable by law. Did you know that in the Gambia, only the Gambia Red Cross Society and the medical services of the Gambia Armed Forces with specific restrictions are allowed to use the Red Cross emblem? Did you know that the use of the Red Cross emblem by commercial entities such as hospitals, pharmacies, health posts, private and public properties is also considered as misuse of the emblem? That its misuse could threaten Red Cross missions and put humanitarian workers at risk? The emblem is fully protected by the international humanitarian law and the laws of the Gambia, and its misuse by any other party leads to its violation, which is sanctioned with penalties. The Gambia Red Cross utilized the emblem to signify our promise, neutrality and impartiality, to provide assistance to all people in need regardless of race, color, belief, religion or political affiliation. It serves as a symbol of protection and assistance for the Red Cross teams, while to those we serve, it is a symbol of hope. Let's know, respect and protect the Red Cross emblem.
Life's journey is not always as smooth as we want it to be. Unforeseen tragedies such as accidents and disasters can and do happen. Paying out of your own pocket for costly damages can be a huge financial struggle and a setback for you and your businesses. Worry no more. Takaful Gambia Limited, the first Islamic and among leading insurance companies in the Gambia, will cover the cost of your claims and put you back to the position you were before the loss. Takaful Gambia Limited is currently sharing over $7 million to its esteemed customers for the year ended 2019-2020, among its customers who have not made claims at the end of the year. Takaful Gambia Limited, caring and sharing.
In a country always thirsty for more, a team of superheroes with special powers unite to redefine the way we are connected. Big Barbara Pegas steps up your communication with the DOK service, giving you 1,000 minutes of talk time to one special person for $150 is only. Valid for 1 month. Enjoy your talk time. Type SUB and send by SMS to 135 to activate the TOK service. Africell got office with the power to change the world. Africell is setting trends once again. I'm sure you still love WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and Viber. Your favorite GSM operator Africell knows this. That's why you can now enjoy more at the same price. Activate the social media bundle and be online for 24 hours for $10 is only.
Hello! Activate the social media bundle for $10 is only and receive 40 megabytes.
Where Africell goes, nobody dares to follow.
It's
It's a warm reception to our studio here in Sarakunda. This is Star TV News with me, Dado Cham. In the headlines tonight, 246 candidates contest in Saturday's polls. Mohammedan Lower Basic School students refurbished old toilet. GPU provides safety hotline for journalists. Operations to implement new road schemes underway. In the international news, Sudanese mark removal of Omar al-Bashir with protest against army rule. In France election, Le Pen narrow gap on Macron in a tightening race. US reveals fresh Russia sanctions after atrocity in Ukraine. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. The Independent Electoral Commission confirmed that 246 candidates will be contesting in Saturday's National Assembly polls in all 7 administrative areas. Mariama Dem reports.
Following the much anticipated 2021 presidential election in December, the Independent Electoral Commission is yet again set to conduct another important election for the 6th legislature. The Commission on Wednesday held its final briefing on this year's legislative elections barely 3 days to the polls. During the briefing, the IEC confirmed that 427 aspirants have collected nomination forms from the IEC, out of which 251 have been endorsed. Out of 18 political parties, 12 have put up their candidates, 58 independent candidates, out of which 19 are female and 1 with disability. Meanwhile, following the demise of the Gambia for All's candidate for Kiang West constituency, the IEC chairman Ali Mohammedan said a second nomination was conducted. During the process, 3 aspirants cancelled their bid, 8 were rejected, 2 appealed to the commission for being rejected, and 1 petitioned the IEC chairman, which was later dismissed by the High Court. 5 nominated candidates also withdrew from running. The chairman described the campaign as inclusive and peaceful, noting that there has not been any report regarding candidates breaching the code of ethics so far.
I to commend all candidates and political parties for their sense of responsibility in ensuring the conduct of peaceful campaign rallies and meetings across the country. I implore on all candidates and their supporters to maintain this momentum throughout the electoral process. I would like to assure Gambians, directorate, political parties and candidates, and all other stakeholders that the Commission is fully committed to deliver to the Gambian people free, fair, and timely elections come 9th April.
The Director of Operations at the IEC, Samu Jangjai, said over 6,000 polling staff are ready for deployment in all 1,555 polling stations across the country.
So far, we have not received any reported incident of violence. The campaign is smooth and peaceful. Recruitment and training of polling staff. The IEC has recruited the following staff and gazetted them. Returning officers 7, 150 assistant returning officers, 1,555 presiding officers, 1,555 assistant presiding officers, 1,555 polling officers, and about 1,500 polling assistants. This gives a total of over 6,000 polling staff, in addition to the 70 staff of the IEC.
Sambujang also has a message to share with Gambians regarding voting on Saturday.
On the 9th of April 2022, which will be on this coming Saturday at 8 a.m., all the 1,555 polling stations shall open and shall be receiving voters to vote for their candidates. And this polling station will close at 5 p.m. And anyone who is on the queue before 5 p.m. will be allowed to cast his or her votes. And only registered voters with voter's card will be allowed. Anybody who is registered with a voter's card will be allowed to vote. Any registered voter without a voter's card will not be allowed to vote. And a voter can only vote where he or she is registered. There is no election duty certificate this time. It's not law.
The Deputy Inspector General of Police, Mamadou Sow, highlighted that the IGP is currently deploying security personnel to ensure the safety of all persons and properties in the Gambia throughout the electoral process.
The men and women capacities were perfectly built, and I hope that will translate into a very positive change. So in the D-Day, that is the second stage of our planning, of operations, that is the very day itself, as I am talking to you, personnel have been deployed to all the areas that they are supposed to cover. Normally that services for that day is only physical election security. When we say physical election security, that has to do with the security at the polling centers, the collation centers, and all IEC facilities as far as the election process is concerned.
Meanwhile, the IEC encouraged all polling and counting agents of all political parties and independent candidates to observe the voting process from start to finish attentively. Maria Madam, reporting for Star TV News.
Mohammedan Class of the 70s, a group of ex-students of the Mohammedan Lower Basic School, refurbished the school's 50-year-old toilets to a modern standard. Our Sani reports.
The Mohammedan Class of the 70s also furnished some of the classrooms with new chairs, tables and 300 liters water tank. This, they said, will make it easier for students to have class in a conducive environment. The headmistress of the school, Mrs. Rahi Job, explained that the project started a few months ago when some of the members of the group came to her to inspect the school to assist in some renovation. She expresses gratitude to the former students and encouraged them to keep up the hard work.
They came back, that is the ex-peoples of the 70s, came back that they will be renovating the toilets. But they did not only renovate it, instead they rehabilitated the toilets to a modern one that is styled from the top of the wall to the floor. You see, most of us Gambians are known of having good plans and not putting them into implementation. But the ex-people of 70s have proved that wrong today.
Omar Sow, the Secretary General of the ex-students, said this is just the beginning in giving back to the school that contributed to making them who they are in society.
The one group ki suñ ben xarit moy president bi legi ku ñu was Zainu Makoli moko xalaatoon bi ko xalaatee mu call ñoom Abdou Wahab fiyu nit rek ñu call ma ñu sanca lu mel nii.
Mr. Sow said the group was formed a year ago with 50 ex-students of the schools in the 70s. They contribute financially every month to come to the aid of the school. Alhaji Modu Senghor gave the vote of thanks on behalf of the Banjul Muslim elders.
Class of 70, biñ ñëwé gis ci ñu pour jël ndigal ne dañ bëgg def dara ci school bi man féké wu mako way fogg na ci imam lañ dem ak ci alaaji Dudu Taal du dëgg baay so ñu ne leen jox nañ leen ndigal parce que lu ngeen fay def tam ñun ngeen ko defal.
He thanked the group and encouraged the school to use the provided resources well. For Star TV News, I am Awasane.
In its quest to ensure the safety of journalists during and after the parliamentary elections, on a Saturday, the Gambia Press Union has released hotlines for journalists to call in any case of hustle during the elections. Jacqueline Colley reports.
According to the release, the hotlines are meant to monitor the situation of journalists and media workers that are deployed in the field for coverage of the voting process so that the GPU can act accordingly. The hotline is to be used for safety reasons by journalists who will be attacked physically, verbally by anyone during the elections and anyone who has any form of challenge in the execution of this election coverage. The hotline numbers are 738300, 3012445 or 7660176 or 9013137. Before the presidential elections, the GPU embarked on the training of 60 journalists from print, electronic, and online media on safety and security. This time around, in preparations for the upcoming parliamentary elections, the GPU rolled out an in-house safety training for media houses, and they began with the Point newspaper. The training is geared towards ensuring the safety of journalists during and after elections in the Gambia. Jacqueline Colley for Star TV News.
The Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure announced last week the introductions of a new Lansing Road scheme that seeks to eradicate the double payment of transport fares, among others. Jacqueline Colley reports.
Transportation is one of the major challenges the Gambian people face. Commuters complain about how drivers make them pay triple fares at times before they could get to their destinations. In curbing this, the government, through the Ministry of Works, came up with a new road scheme to curb the situation. The scheme, according to the ministry, shall apply to commercial vehicles that are licensed to carry 10 passengers and above. Registration to obtain the permit and stickers started on Wednesday, 30th March 2022. And Sumana Gassama, a road safety officer at the Ministry of Works, and his team were spotted at the Sarakunda Brikama garage stamping the permit stickers on some vehicles. As the Ministry of Transport released the new transport tariff, which saw some increment on other destinations, Gassama said for drivers to enjoy the new tariff, they should comply with the new road scheme.
For any driver to enjoy the new tariff, they have to, comply with this route licensing. Yes.
Asked about the procedures taken to ensure drivers comply with the new scheme, Gassama explains how the operation will be carried out and the stakeholders involved.
Of course, we are in this together with the relevant authorities. In fact, this committee is chaired by the Honorable Minister of Interior, and of course the police is under him. The line ministry of the Gambia Police Force is the Minister of Interior, so they are spearheading this process. So as a result, I believe that the enforcement we will enforce it to latter. And then the drivers also should comply. Part of the committee also, we have the transport union, and then we were all in this together since from the inception.
Modumbai, the chef de garage at the Brikama car park, meanwhile expressed his delight in the increase of transport fares. He said some drivers in the garage do not agree with the routing scheme, but as the head, he is doing his ultimate best to make them see reasons with him.
Inshallah Monday drive dinañ ko jeen.
All we yearned for was for the fares to be increased, and now that has been done. We are grateful for the new route scheme. Drivers who refuse to adhere to it so should have it in their minds that the authorities responsible will get to them. The new road scheme is a good and an easy initiative. I am here in service of all the drivers in this garage in case they need.
Meanwhile, the new tariff will be effective on Monday. Both drivers and passengers were urged to adhere to the new tariff. Jacqueline Colley for Star TV News.
Those were the local stories. We will be back with the international news after the short break.
UNUS English School. For quality and affordable education, look no further. UNUS English School has what you've been looking for. UNUS English School is a leading institution in the Gambia with nursery, lower basic, upper basic and senior secondary education with magnificent teaching and learning facilities. UNUS English School has highly qualified and experienced teaching staff preparing students for university and beyond. UNUS English School is an institution with distinct academic excellence, and the school operates not only in the usual 5 days a week but 6 days a week, Mondays to Saturdays, breaking a remarkable record on credit hour coverage for all our students. Contact UNUS English School today to register your children on 77814443 or 7070091 or still on 9249426. Better still, you can email unusenglish@yahoo.com. At UNUS English School, excellence is a priority without compromise.
The Red Cross Emblem. The unauthorized use of the Red Cross Emblem in the Gambia is illegal and punishable by law. Did you know that in the Gambia, only the Gambia Red Cross Society and the medical services of the Gambia Armed Forces with specific restrictions are allowed to use the Red Cross Emblem? Did you know that the use of the Red Cross Emblem by commercial entities such as hospitals, pharmacies, health posts, private and public properties is also considered as misuse of the emblem? That its misuse could threaten Red Cross missions and put humanitarian workers at risk? The emblem is fully protected by the international humanitarian law and the laws of the Gambia, and its misuse by any other party leads to its violation, which is sanctioned with penalties. The Gambia Red Cross utilized the emblem to signify our promise, neutrality and impartiality, to provide assistance to all people in need regardless of race, color, belief, religion or political affiliation. It serves as a symbol of protection and assistance for the Red Cross teams, while to those we serve, it is a symbol of hope. Let's know, respect and protect the Red Cross emblem.
In a country always thirsty for more, a team of superheroes with special powers unite to redefine the way we are connected. Big Barber and Pegas steps up your communication with the DOK service, giving you 1,000 minutes of talk time to one special person for $150 is only. Valid for 1 month. Enjoy your talk time. Type SUB and send by SMS to 135 to activate the TOK service. Africell got office with the power to change the world.
Africell is setting trends once again. I'm sure you still love WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and Viber. Your favorite GSM operator Africell knows this. That's why you can now enjoy more at the same price. Activate the social media bundle and be online for 24 hours for $10 is only.
Hello! Activate the social media bundle for $10 is only and receive 40 megabytes.
Where Africell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Welcome back after that commercial break. If you're just tuning in, this is Star TV News from our studio here in Sarekunda. And now the news beyond our borders. Thousands of Sudanese took to the street to commemorate the anniversary of mass unrest that led to the trampling of former Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir in 2019 and to protest against the military ongoing grip to the power. Rallies were held in Khartoum and outside the capital on Wednesday to mark the removal of Omar al-Bashir and to express public anger as the military couped in October and during a 2-year transitional period to civilians' rules in Sudan. More with Al Jazeera.
It's almost 6 months since Sudan's military seized power, and the opposition remains vocal. On Wednesday, protesters in the capital Khartoum and several other cities once again took to the streets to voice their anger at the military and demand they hand over power to a civilian government.
We came out to send a message to the military who are in power around the country that we want a pure civilian government. The army should return to the barracks. No militia can rule a country, and I think that is a very clear message.
Protesters are also commemorating the 3rd anniversary of a sit-in in front of the army headquarters. That sit-in led the military to depose longtime President Omar al-Bashir after months of protests and sign a power-sharing agreement with the protest movement, an agreement that was dissolved when the army took over last October.
We made a huge achievement in 2019 and ended a regime stronger than the current one. They say the revolution was stolen, but it wasn't. The army was in partnership with us and they betrayed us, and this is a fresh revolution with no partnership with the military. So now we want a civilian government without the military. We can't live under a military rule.
Security forces used tear gas and live ammunition to disperse protesters. In the past 6 months, more than 90 protesters have been killed and hundreds injured as security forces use what rights groups and the UN describe as excessive and brutal force against unarmed demonstrators. Last year's military takeover has created a political crisis. There hasn't been a prime minister for 3 months, and the caretaker government is still running the day-to-day affairs of the country. The uncertainty, along with donor countries halting financial aid to Sudan following the takeover, has created an economic crisis. But the army says even with protests against its rule, it won't hand over power except to an elected government. A joint effort by the United Nations, African Union, and the Regional Intergovernmental Authority on Development, or IGAD, to facilitate talks between the various political actors in Sudan was launched in January. But many protesters have rejected the process.
This revolution will succeed whether that happens today or tomorrow or next year.
or the coming generation. In 2019, we demand the end of the regime. We're demanding that same thing now. We don't want partnerships or negotiations or compromise with the military.
Protesters have faced the threat of violence and detention from security forces, but they say until their demands for a civilian government and a return to a democratic transition are met, they won't stop protesting. Hiba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Khartoum.
Far-right candidate Marine Le Pen holds her final rally of the French presidential election campaign on Thursday. Polls suggest the race is tightening with Le Pen an increasing threat to President Emmanuel Macron's. Al Jazeera's Natasha Bolta reports from France.
At the Ukrainian cathedral in Paris, the war is never far from people's minds.
It's unbearable, just awful. All those people that are dying.
Ukrainians are fighting for peace, not only for Ukraine, but for Europe.
The war is one of the key issues in France's election. Emmanuel Macron's diplomatic efforts have played out well, and opinion polls suggest that he's leading the presidential race. But the conflict is also fueling anxiety over inflation. At places like Montterre, northern France, people aren't spending like they used to.
Clients expect certain prices, but they see what's happening, and because they are struggling financially, they are counting their pennies.
Everyone that we've spoken to here says that they're worried about the war in Ukraine, the COVID pandemic, but their number one concern is the cost of living. In a bar, a group of friends is talking politics.
There are three categories of people in France: poor, rich, and the people in the middle. Those in the middle struggle most because the poor get state help, but people in the middle get all the taxes.
It's the people in the middle that far-right party leader Marine Le Pen is targeting. Her focus on the cost of living has shifted the spotlight away from her anti-immigration agenda and broadened her appeal. She's widely expected to face Macron in a final round runoff, but many voters are still undecided. A third may not vote at all. Lionel Brot's been running an informal poll in central Paris for several months.
People are very engaged in this election, but completely lost. From one week to the next, it changes a lot. The only constant is people who say they don't know. This week, even more people are visibly in the don't know camp.
Difficult choices in uncertain times. French voters will go to the polls at a moment of crisis in Europe. Whether they choose stability and continuity or something different is as unpredictable as the conflict that's overshadowed this election. Natasha Butler, Al Jazeera, Montterre, France.
In a new round of sanctions, the United States has banned American investment in Russia, imposed a penalty on family members of Putin and other top Russian officials, and tightened restrictions on Sparkbank, the country's largest financial institutions. Al Jazeera's Kimberly Hadkat reports.
It is the latest U.S. escalation against Russia in lockstep with EU and G7 nations. New sanctions targeting Russian financial institutions and Kremlin officials. The U.S. president also introduced an executive order banning all American investment in Russia.
This ban on investment is going to make sure that new money can't come into Russia to replace what's left.
Some of those sanctions now include Russian President Vladimir Putin's 2 adult daughters and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, his wife and daughter. On Wednesday, the Justice Department announcing actions against Russian oligarch Konstantin Malafev for sanctions violations and the seizure of a yacht docked in Spain earlier this week, owned by another Russian oligarch, Viktor Vekselberg.
It does not matter how far you sail your yacht. It does not matter how well you conceal your assets. The Justice Department will use every available tool to find you, disrupt your plots, and hold you accountable.
The Justice Department, working with the FBI, also announced it had disrupted a malicious computer network infecting U.S. small businesses operated by Russian military intelligence. The sanctions were accelerated following the images emerging of civilians killed in Bucha, scattered in the streets, some with their hands bound behind their backs. The Attorney General would not confirm he's assembling a Nuremberg-style investigation, but did go out of his way to constitute the killings as atrocities.
The world sees what is happening in Ukraine. The Justice Department sees what is happening in Ukraine.
The White House is warning nations like India and China against aligning with Russia to ease the impact of sanctions. But China accuses the U.S. of exacerbating the conflict.
If the U.S. is serious about easing the situation in Ukraine, it should stop adding fuel to the fire, stop imposing sanctions, stop coercive words and deeds, and truly commit to promote peace talks.
The White House says that sanctions already in place are having an impact. The Russian economy is set to contract in 2022 by as much as 15%. And inflation in Russia is up by as much as 200%. Kimberly Helkett, Al Jazeera, Washington.
And before we end the news, a recap of our main headlines. 246 candidates contest in Saturday's polls. Mohammedan Lower Basic School students refurbished old toilet. GPU provides safety hotline for journalists. Operations to implement new road schemes underway. In the international news, Sudanese mark removal of Omar al-Bashir with protest against army rule. In France election, Le Pen narrow gap on Macron in a tightening race. US reveals fresh Russia sanctions after atrocity in Ukraine. That's all for this edition of the news. Thank you for watching and join us for tomorrow's news. Keep watching.